best meme by next week, by next Wednesday, that has Infowars.com included, will get $20,000. Plus, we'll post a lot of the better memes on Infowars.com and on our Twitter and Facebook. You know, I miss Leanne as a friend since she's been gone for over a month on a sabbatical helping her grandmother, who just had surgery successfully. But it's the great part about Skype is, even when I'm out of town, I can talk to my son, my daughter's family. It's like she's here. It just makes me happy. And Paul Watson, who I love as well. I love Leanne. I love Paul Watson. I love this crew in here. I mean, I just really do. That the whole crew back there are just awesome folks. The longer they're here, the more I love them. You know, Nico and Daria and CJ and Zach and Matt and just everybody. The whole crew. Rob Do, everybody. It's amazing. And they demonize us. They lie about us. I want to have Paul take over because I had to twist his arm to the show. He's such a dominator of Twitter and everything else and writing prolific stories. But I wanted to just have Leanne chime in with a quick comment or two and finish up, and Paul Watson as well. But Paul Watson, what do you make of this blowing up in CNN's face so bad? I mean, this is intensifying. I don't know how long this can go on. And then the crazy North Korea stuff, and then the media lying and saying that I said there's Martian slave colonies of children when we were talking about the Pope's deputy being indicted for mass kidnapping of children. I mean, it's just Twilight Zone. What would you call this period we're in right now, Paul?
I'd call it the beginning of the great meme war of summer 2017, Alex. This CNN thing today is just insane. You know that it's got them on the ropes, Alex, because you had Stelter, you had Cuomo, all the big CNN guys responding to James O'Keefe last week during that whole fracas. Today, they're not responding, apart from Cuomo. None of the other CNN bigwigs are saying anything about this. They've obviously been ordered to shut up about it. It is completely embarrassing. It's blown up in their face. The latest is the originator of this Trump meme, which CNN tried to out and threatened to out, basically threatened to blackmail him, threatened to dox him. He's not even the originator of the meme. It's actually turned out to be, by the looks of it, an anonymous guy in Mexico. So even in their complete failure, even in this blowing up in their face, they've identified the wrong person.
But Paul, that's what I said hours ago. I said my instinct is they made all this up, identified a nom de plume so they could have the person admit they were racist and evil. That was just my gut level. They're such serpents, such liars, such known scumbags. It's not speculation when it's known liars, constantly caught staging, constantly caught with fake news, $100 million lawsuits on Scaramucci, making all this crap up. That's what I said. Because the whole thing stunk of something they just made up. What do you think, Watson?
Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter who it is. They've been caught red-handed. Of course, they wanted to celebrate it as a great victory. Like they'd identified this racist, anti-Semite homophobe who Trump had used his tweet. So that they had that whole narrative cooking, completely blown up in their face. They came out with a statement after they rightfully got absolutely rinsed, even by never Trump people, even by leftist media outlets for this. They came out with a statement today, Alex, that said, quote, CNN decided not to publish the name of the Reddit user out of concern for his safety.
Oh.
But that kind of contradicts what they said in the article. In fact, it completely contradicts it when they said, quote, CNN reserves the right to publish his identity. That is a threat of doxing, by the way, should any of that change. What are they talking about when they say, should any of that change? They're talking about, quote, his ugly behavior on social media.
That's right. You better be a good boy forever. We're watching you. We're controlling your political speech, and we'll burn you and make you lose your job if you don't play ball. That's called racketeering. That's called extortion. That's called intimidation. What's the state law in New York has another name, coercion. I mean, they are involved in serious gangsta activity, Paul.
But it wasn't just coercion against him. It was a message to others. I mean, let's boil it down. He's essentially being threatened with doxing because he made fun of CNN. CNN has turned its $1 billion worth of resources against one anonymous individual for making a meme.
Do they not understand that people hate seeing little people being attacked, Paul? The cardinal rule here at our office is do your research, have the facts, try to report with other documentation that corroborates, talk to the witnesses, and never attack little people. Leanne, let's go to Leanne for a few final comments, and I'm going to get out of here and let you take over, Paul, because I can tell you're wound up, the great Paul Watson. But I do want to ask you one more question before we leave. Leanne, your final comments here. It's always awesome to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Well, right. And that's what's so important here that people need to understand is they're trying to make the case that it's okay to dox and attack a private citizen when you're right. That is the cardinal rule for us at InfoWars. We don't go after the little guy. They're not our enemy. We're not dealing with them. Now CNN has taken their entire billion-dollar empire and is targeting private citizens to send a chilling effect to everyone else on the internet that might dare post content that CNN finds questionable. Paul has reported about this Internet ID in depth, letting people know that this is what's coming, this China Internet ID policy. And now CNN is basically trying to get the American people to go along with setting something up like this, where we can do away with anonymity on the internet if they're racist and bigoted, and they should have their lives destroyed if the gatekeepers decide that they're posting content that they don't like. And that is chilling.
Well, Leanne, thank you so much for joining us. You've made the best points here today. And tell folks how they can, I guess for now, they just censored the term, as Paul pointed out, CNN blackmail off of Twitter. How folks follow you on Twitter?
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and also LeanneMcAdoo.com. It's all right there under Leanne McAdoo.
All right, she's going to be launching her own show very, very soon. We're working with her to do that. Thank you, Leanne.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Very exciting. Paul, I'm going to hand this over to you, but I always enjoy talking to you. I always enjoy watching your work. Let me just ask you this question. What is your favorite of the compilation of memes we've put out that we're running for TV viewers right now without audio? I like Trump as the dragon in Mortal Kombat biting the head off of CNN. I mean, it's a video game. It's a joke. It's fun. They're the one that have their, their listeners out actually shooting congressmen. Or is it the Muhammad Ali because he's defensively moving out of all their blows? What's your favorite?
I like the first one that you mentioned. I think the one that was posted about an hour ago. There's actually one, just an image with the tanks from Tiananmen Square with CNN on the front of them facing up to the guy with a Reddit logo, which is, I made that one, so that's my favorite, but they're all great.
Done well.
People are suggesting, yeah, that's the one I made. People are saying we should have a contest for the best CNN meme. But,
no, I agree, because I've only paid out $20,000. I've only paid out $20,000. And I have a great crew. Maybe you should manage it because so much comes in and then we got to pay it out. You just tell us who to pay, Paul. Maybe you want to manage it. You're so good at juggling 100 things. I'll give you more work. And your brother, Steve, who works with you. Yes, I want to pay the other 180 out on anybody that follows the other rules. CNN's fake, CNN's terrorist, which has been picked up in the larger meme. But yeah, absolutely. Whoever's got the best meme out of the 180,000 that's left, whoever does the best meme by next week, by next Wednesday, that has Infowars.com included, will get $20,000. Plus, we'll post a lot of the better memes on Infowars.com and on our Twitter and Facebook. How's that sound, Paul? Would you like the honcho? Just that part of it. And then how do folks contact you? I guess you can get into our email at contest@Infowars.com. And will you handle that $20,000 chunk?
Yeah, I can do that. Of course, it's key to put Infowars.com on there because there are so many memes. There's probably 1,000 memes within the past few hours. It has to have Infowars.com on the meme so we know that it's an original meme for the contest.
That's right. And you can retool or make a meme documentary. This is the meme wars of the news wars of the Infowars. Now, Paul Watson, lastly, I'm going to let you take over here. What about Macron announcing I'm going to be like Jupiter, or that's Zeus in Greek, the God Emperor, and will rule, and I'm going to forcibly inoculate all children, and we're going to bring more Muslims in, and we're going to do whatever we want. This literally the child sex toy of the elite. You cannot make up the magnitude of this. I mean, have you seen the photo of him on the royal throne? We'll try to put that back up on screen for TV viewers. I mean, what in Hades is going on here?
Well, he's a sociopath, Alex. Top psychiatrists have come out, and we've written about it and said, this guy's a sociopath. He's another elitist. None of them have had children. None of them have any empathy. They think they can rule over us. They're completely narcissistic, especially in his case. He got with it this grandma of a wife simply for power. He's a sociopath. That's why he rose to the top. To be successful in politics, with very few exceptions, you at least have to be an egomaniac, or you have to be a complete sociopath, and that's what he is. So
and speaking of that, Nikki Haley just started speaking live at the United Nations, the U.S. ambassador to the UN on the deepening North Korea crisis. We're skipping this break so Paul has more time. Here is a few minutes of her live announcement.
It's a dark day. It is a dark day because yesterday's actions by North Korea made the world a more dangerous place. Their illegal missile launch was not only dangerous, but reckless and irresponsible. It showed that North Korea does not want to be part of a peaceful world. They have cast a dark shadow of conflict on all nations that strive for peace. Yesterday's act came from the same vicious dictator who sent a young college student back home to his parents, unresponsive and in a coma. For Americans, the true nature of the North Korean regime was painfully brought home with the images of two guards holding Otto Warmbier up as they transported him from a prison he should never have been in. Otto Warmbier is but one person out of millions who have been killed, tortured, or deprived of their human rights by the North Korean regime. To Americans, the death of one innocent person can be as powerful as the death of millions. Because all men and women are created in God's image, depravity toward one is a sure sign of willingness to do much more harm. The nature of the North Korean regime is clear. Only the scale of the damage it does could become different. That's why yesterday's escalation is so alarming. If North Korea will treat an innocent young student the way it treated Otto Warmbier, we should not be surprised if it acts barbarically on a larger scale. The United States does not seek conflict. In fact, we seek to avoid it. We seek only the peaceful denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and an end to the threatening actions by North Korea. Regrettably, we're witnessing just the opposite. Make no mistake, North Korea's launch of an ICBM is a clear and sharp military escalation.
Well, they aimed it at Japan.
The North Korean regime openly states that its missiles are intended to deliver nuclear weapons to strike cities in the United States, South Korea, and Japan. And now it has greater capacity to do so. In truth, it is not only the United States and our allies that are threatened. North Korea's destabilizing escalation is a threat to all nations.
She's going to call for sanctions.
In the region.
He's definitely rogue now.
Their
not controlled by
actions are
China.
quickly closing off the possibility of a diplomatic
Russia for the first time
solution.
start threatening him back.
The United States is prepared to use the full range of our capabilities to defend ourselves
This is coming to a
and
head.
our allies. One of our capabilities lies with our considerable military forces. We will use them if we must, but we prefer not to have to go in that direction. We have other methods of addressing those who threaten us and of addressing those who supply the threats. We have great capabilities in the area of trade. President Trump has spoken repeatedly
They don't care.
about
They just
this.
starve more people to death.
I spoke with him at length about it this morning. There are countries that are allowing, even encouraging, trade with North Korea in
All right, that's
violation.
enough. Paul can cover it once the statement's done. We know what's coming out of this. The issue is Trump has said the order of strategic patience is over. The Clintons gave him the reactors, the missiles. Why did the elites do this? Where does Paul Watson think this is going? Paul, take over. Great job. Paul of Prison Planet. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Yeah, an interesting sidebar on that was a poll that I ran yesterday. And it's very different from the Syria situation with North Korea, of course. Nikki Haley is absolutely dreadful on Syria. Last week, she was talking about if there's any chemical weapons attack, we will blame it on Assad, even though the evidence for the previous one was dodgy, to say the least. She's terrible on Syria. It was good of her to mention Otto Warmbier. Remember, he was made fun of. He was mocked after he died and before he died by leftists saying his white privilege was what got him in that horrible situation as a prisoner in North Korea. But the poll I ran, if Trump launched a military strike on North Korea, would you support it? Now, if you're talking about Syria, that was 50% or less would support it. In the case of North Korea, 65% said yes. And 29,000 people voted, by the way, almost all of whom are going to be Trump supporters. So that is a large sample. 65% said yes, they would support a military strike on North Korea. 35% said no. So there is more support for a strike on North Korea than Syria. So it would be less controversial amongst Trump's base, which we know was a huge issue last time around with the entanglement with Syria back in April. So we'll continue to watch that and developments with North Korea.